and gentlemen, please welcome 6'4" point guard out of Syracuse University, your best man and better looking brother, and can't forget the baby brother, Blake Burns.
Let's get the party started. All right. Let me work the room. Lil Jordan told me I had 3 minutes. 2.5. So here we go. For those who don't know me, you've been calling me Lol all weekend. But like this guy over here wondering, what was the wedding diet that he lost weight, he got so much more athletic, he's better looking. Lowell had a good speech at my wedding, so I will start the same way he did as an example. Where we first met almost 34 years ago. But I remember when there was no Lowell. After having Sami, my parents had always wanted to round out the perfect family of 4 with a boy. And I was born. In the womb at this time, sorry. My dad, the planner, he was already planning my education, my future schedule for the week, my Eagle Scout regiment, etc. And I was just a young little tadpole at the time, enjoying lots of sleep and silence. Until one day I woke up and realized that more than half my body was missing. Over to my right over here, I looked and I saw someone who looked exactly like me. I was like, okay. Now, being stuck in the womb for this with this other guy for 9 months, we really got to know each other pretty well. Most of my family would remember us as pretty quiet growing up. Reason being, Lowell was a chatty Cathy in the womb. Always wanted to talk about gosh knows what. I was just trying to sleep and eat and grow. You know, I always think back, and that's probably where Lowell first started to love sales. Talking to me. He would also tell me all these jokes that were terrible, and I would pretend to laugh. And I'd keep pretending to laugh until I had to pretend to LOL. So I named him Lowell. LOL. Now, as the original son, I realized I was the older brother. Hold on. Apologies. And so it was my job to look after Lowell. I would let him eat the daily rations first each day, and once he was taking up too much room, I held the door for him as a gentleman would, and off he was born. I told my parents his name was Lowell, LOL. They spelled it wrong. So much commotion, apparently having twins. And in the world's light, I was further able to compare my body, pre and post split, and I could tell I was left with more of the brains, the bronze, the looks. So I continued to put Lowell ahead of me in a place to succeed. Now, years 0 through 5, they consisted of training Lowell through walking, sports, wilderness survival, reading, etc. And most of that continued until we sent him off to college. My parents, they also noticed I was much more gifted in the athletic department. So they told us you could only play team sports. That way Lowell would at least be on the winning team. Now, soccer was our best sport. My parents, they do still have the newspaper articles of us winning early championships, Green Monkeys. I was mentioned for scoring 6, 7, or 8 goals a game, and Lowell was also mentioned for his sportsmanship and overall teamwork. As we got older, we would make Lowell move out of my room, as he really had a tendency to almost try and reverse our split. He was so attached. We did. Lucky for him, we had an adjoining bathroom, so he could at least still feel connected, but he would cry himself to sleep every night. dealing with the severe attachment issues, during the days my parents were forced to split us up into classrooms so we were never in the same class. They told us it was so the teachers wouldn't confuse us and give me the wrong grade. Things got so desperate with the attachment issues that one day my parents forgot Lowell at the local park. We drove off and left him there as a training exercise to continue our permanent split. But at the time, I knew he wasn't ready. Sorry. So I convinced my parents to let me out and run back and pretend that we were both left behind together. He remembers us. So we would hitchhike over to Portofino Pizza and grab a slice and cheer him up, and then we would call for a ride home. By middle school, Lowell had a big obsession with Thomas the Tank Engine. And quite honestly, it was a bit metaphoric for how I continued to steer Lowell. Both of our parents, they worked full-time, as I mentioned. Sameem, she also worked full-time, reading Harry Potter books in her room.
Love you.
So I was left to really be Lowell's rails. And he was the train. Sometimes he would slip off the track, but we would get him a little tune-up and he'd be back on the rails and back on the right path. Lowell and I, we'd play basketball all the time in the driveway. And the intro that I had today, Lowell Over the Top, was an homage to that. Lowell would remember. We would actually both do our own player intros. I would be the Bulls, and he actually would get his ass kicked as the Knicks. And then he'd go into his room and cry and eat 2 taquitos. Because the loser would have to be my servant for a day. At which point I'd pee all over the toilet seat in our attached bathroom for him to have to clean up, or have him make my bed or cook the family dinner. By 13, we had our bar mitzvah. It was March Madness themed. I believe Lowell sat at the Cornell table knowing that would be the closest he would get to an Ivy League school. The day after our bar mitzvahs, our parents sat us down and said, all right, it's time to choose your careers, now that you're men. They said, Mom, Dad, I love math and science. I've been reading the Wall Street Journal every morning, Post.com, Bubble Bears. And it really makes me want the combined technical challenge of starting my own company before I'm 30. So I enrolled in all the advanced classes and off I went. Lowell said, well, after the last family reunion, when I found out that our great-great-grandfather Zelig was a goods-peddling white Orthodox Jew from the shtetl of Lepel in Russia, I probably wouldn't make the NBA. But I saw some of my other non-athletic friends from Hebrew school sign up for this sport management class. I'd like to try that and get into sales like Zelig. My parents rolled their eyes not knowing what that was and said, good luck. Off Lowell went to prove them wrong. First, he sold popcorn to the neighbors for the Boy Scouts. And there, he won all the top prizes for his sales. Next, my dad mentioned, he was scalping tickets in the parking lot for the Hudson Valley Renegades. And he won himself a free internship on the grounds crew, rolling up the tarp during rain delays. And finally, it felt like Lowell had found something he was better than me at. In high school, though, he really reached his peak. He got his dream job downtown Mount Kisco. Good pay. Awesome perks. We'd be able to go visit him. They got to dress up in these really... They got to dress up... Right, they got to dress up in these really cool uniforms. He was selling office supplies at Staples. Red shirt, khakis. He was in the printer ink section. But just when we thought he was all ready to take on the world, Lowell would prove he still needed those tracks. He convinced my parents to let him go to Ohio U, the #1 sport management school in the country.
Brian. Woo!
little guys were there. It was the only sport management school in the country. They were also the #1 party school in the country.
Yep.
So when Lowell found out that was the only school he got into, he started practicing for the party. He asked me what to do as the real older brother. I said, listen, all the kids these days are smoking recreationals, but growing up in the middle of nowhere, we actually had no cell service, and it was hard to get any stuff. And so we recruited our sister Smee, older sister. She was still reading Harry Potter books in her room. So she wasn't any help. So I convinced Lowell you could actually get a buzz smoking tea bags rolled up in a leaf.
That happened.
He believed me. He tried the lemon zinger in Act All High. He wasn't.
Sadly.
But one day he was. Senior year of high school, we went over to a neighbor's to hang out with a bunch of my friends. We only had like 2 hours, so I told him, listen, stick to just 2 Bud Lights. I went in the other room, I funneled a couple Budweisers, looked down, and he was gone. He came back with about 5 minutes before our curfew, and he was extremely out of it. He was actually high. Now, normally we would get home, and my parents over here would talk our ears off almost as like a test to see if we were sober. You might remember that.
They had to kiss us
First time I'm calling them
goodnight.
out on that. Now, after that, my mom would hug us before we went up to our rooms and... Are you guys drinking? Smoking? Do a little sniff test. So I told Lowell, listen, I'll take the lead. You stay in the back. Don't look stupid, okay? And as I made it through all the tests and headed upstairs, Lowell tried to do the same. Only this time, his legs stopped working. I heard an absolute shriek from my mom, and my dad lowered Lowell down to the floor as he had a literal blackout. And I'm not sure if he remembers it to this day, because it didn't make the family newsletter that year. And so we sent him off to college, and he would struggle with the lack of support from afar, being detached from me, that he would quit playing sports and he took up partying. Things got so tough for him, I booked him a flight to Syracuse and showed him that you could balance an engineering degree, captain a club soccer team, be the vice president of a fraternity, and we would get him back on the rails. He would return to OU to join a fraternity. It was a co-ed community service one. And they would get him on the improvement plan he needed to make it through. But 4 years of college was the longest Lowell had spent detached from me. And he had always kept that awe for his visit to Syracuse. So he moved to Syracuse while I was still there. And he went back to selling sports tickets. My friends and I would support his endeavors. We would buy season tickets, so much so that Anthony would promote him to the game day box office. I would leave Syracuse for New York, and for all intents and purposes, I would allow Lowell to assume my life there. He would then move to Penn State, where his interests include carp fishing, cow tipping, and working long hours, until eventually he would move to Austin and look for his wife. All right, now I will get serious. At my wedding, you guys might remember, I gave a little speech about fate and how it led to me miraculously finding my beautiful wife. Hey, babe. Now, with any couple, the fate of coming together with all the forks in the road in life, or in that very day, to a moment where you meet, to me, is a miracle, and it's quite spectacular. For Lowell and Jordan, that was no different. Jordan left New York for her birthday girls' weekend trip to Austin. And Lowell had just moved to Austin. And he was looking for his future wife. But what were the odds they'd be at the same bar at the same time? What were the odds, though, that again, Jordan, living in New York City at the time, actually lived a block away from Meredith and I? And that she had seen us the week prior and saw me and thought, oh my God, that guy is so hot. be so disappointed that I was taken. As dating is so hard in New York, but only to find someone who looked exactly like me a week later in Austin. But really, thankfully for Lowell's height, Jordan found him at a small local bar named Dirty Bill's. It's a little quiet, nice establishment. They would meet, they would talk, and immediately have so much in common. They'd spend the whole weekend together talking, like Lowell had done once with me in the womb. But Jordan actually listened. Their love was a match, and I knew it was when Lowell visited her a few weeks later in New York. You'll remember this. When I walked Lowell to the subway at the end of his trip, he just broke down crying. Blake, I'm in love. I'm like, yeah, no shit, you've been following me around for years. It's too much. He goes, no, Blake, I'm in love with Jordan. I said, thank God, I'm free. And he continued to cry, just like he would the first time he brought Jordan to Cameron's Deli to get a breakfast sandwich.
Fucking Russian!
But it was beautiful. Now, when I met Jordan, I could tell she was perfect for him. And I would tell her that she would have to be the rails now. And Jordan has done such a good job that, amazingly, now Lowell only goes to 7-Eleven once a month for 2 taquitos. An improvement on once a day. But seriously, Jordan actually dropped everything and moved to Austin for Lowell, which is an amazing testament to their early connection. And Lowell would do similar by evicting his roommate Kevin. And they're still friends. As if Jordan wasn't already a catch for Lowell, over the past few years, we've met Jordan's parents, her sisters, her extended family and friends. And after the engagement festivities at their house, I really do envy the Meyer family. Their closeness with each other is inspiring for any family. And the awe that Haskell and Jen have for both Jordan and Lowell is amazing. And while Lowell forced us to move to Austin this past year, still having lingering attachment issues, I know that time will be short-lived until Haskell convinces them to move to Miami. But for now, living in Austin's been a blast, being so close to Lowell and Jordan. As we grow older together, Meredith and I, we have seen the two of them also start to grow older together. And while I used to let Lowell lead me as the real older brother, I have more recently preferred leading to show Lowell the way in life. We got a dog, Reese, just like me, smart, athletic, playful, and beautiful. And Lowell will get a dog just like him. We would get married. Yeah, he is getting married. We would have a child, and I hope that they want to follow suit. So, as a husband and a father, I feel like now is my time to provide advice. She is always right. Show unconditional love, unconditional understanding, unconditional support. As we all battle time, slow down, enjoy the ride, put each other and your family first. She is still right, and don't question why. So to that I say, best of luck with Lowell. He's officially yours now, Jordan, but we are officially a joined, bigger, closer, and better family, and I am so excited for the future to follow. The end. See you at the next party.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for the baby brother! All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about that time. Let's go party! I'll see you guys in a bit.
That was incredible. The shirt.
You killed it.
Killed.
A half hour later.
That's late. I'm just gonna go pee.
It lived up. I love you.
Love you too.
That was so
It's good,
Me
ladies.
too. We need to put